I noticed him during the opening hymn, 3 rows back on the aisle side, sitting with the particular stillness of someone who has earned their grief. Not performing it, not managing it, just holding it, the way you hold something heavy that you've been holding for a while. I didn't know his face. I knew most of the faces in that room, or knew enough to place them. His, I couldn't place. I filed it away and turned back to the front. My father's name was Martin. He was 68. He had a heart that had been arguing with him since his early 60s and finally won on a Tuesday in November, which felt wrong to me. Tuesday is such an administrative day to die. He was a man of moderate words and specific habits and opinions about woodworking that he shared whether or not you had asked. He was my father for 41 years, and I thought I knew the shape of him. The stranger stood up when the pastor nodded to him. He spoke for 12 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on the wall behind the altar in the way you watch clocks when you're trying to stay anchored to something measurable. He said his name was Frank. He said he and my father had breakfast together most Thursdays for the last 4 years, along with a small group of men from the area, and that Martin had been the reason most of them kept showing up. Then he started talking about my father, and something in the room changed. He knew that my father took his coffee with 1 sugar and would accept a 2nd cup but never a 3rd. He knew the name of the street my father grew up on, Alderman, in a small Ohio town, and a specific story about a hardware store on the corner that my father had apparently told more than once. He knew the laugh. He described it accurately, the way it started before the joke was finished, and 2 people in the pews around me nodded without meaning to. I recognized some of it. The laugh, yes. The coffee, yes. But the Thursday breakfasts, 4 years of them, I had not known about. The hardware store story I had never heard. The name of the street I knew, but the story attached to it was new and it was specific, and it was the kind of specific that meant my father had told it, because it mattered to him, because he had chosen to tell it. He had not chosen to tell it to me. There is a particular kind of pain that doesn't have a name. It isn't grief exactly, because grief is about absence. This was about presence, a presence I hadn't known to look for. My father had a Thursday life. My father had a Frank. My father had stories he carried to breakfast tables with near strangers and apparently set down there regularly with care. I sat in the front pew and felt the floor plan of my father shifting. I don't remember deciding to follow Frank to the parking lot. I was outside before I'd consciously chosen to be, coat in hand, the cold air arriving all at once. He was already slowing down when he heard my footsteps. He turned before I said anything. He looked at me for a moment, taking in my face, my height, something, and then he said, "He talked about you every week." I didn't speak. I'm not sure I could have. Frank told me about the breakfasts. 4 years ago, after my father's first cardiac event, a mutual acquaintance had suggested the group, men in their 60s mostly, some older, meeting at a diner on Route 9 to talk about whatever needed talking about. My father had resisted for 3 months and then started showing up and never stopped. I asked Frank what they talked about. He smiled in a way that meant the answer was too large for a parking lot. Everything, he said. Mostly the things men don't know how to say at home. Before we parted, he reached into his coat pocket, a folded piece of paper worn at the crease like it had been carried for a while. He said my father had written something at breakfast in September. Frank had read it and kept it. He'd been deciding ever since whether to give it to the family. He'd decided in the parking lot, watching me follow him out. I read it alone in my car with the engine off and the windows fogging. It wasn't long. My father's handwriting, which I recognized, cramped and leftward leaning, like it was always in a hurry. I'm not going to write here what it said. Some things are private, even now, even in the context of trying to understand what happened to me that day. What I'll say is this: my father loved me in a language I didn't know he spoke. He said things on paper at a diner on Route 9 that he never found his way to saying to my face. I don't know if that makes it better or harder. I think it makes it both. I sat in that parking lot for a long time. The paper is in my desk drawer now. I've read it 4 times. I'm not ready to read it a 5th time yet, but I think I will be. That's where I am.